Welcome back, everybody. Man, we are getting tired, or at least I am, but we've been covering a lot here at Chickamauga. We've covered the 18th already, where there was fighting flaring at Reed's Bridge and Alexander's Bridge. We've covered it as the 19th really saw the armies grow on the scene as they went toward the sound of the guns and sort of in the initial parts of the battlefield on the north side. And then as the Confederates sort of swung around, only to be stymied along the road you see off there in the distance, the Lafayette Road, okay? We talked about some of the fighting to the south in Vineyard Field, and now here we are getting ready to talk about what's going to go on the 20th. And I think this, although maybe not the most costly and the roughest of the fighting at Chickamauga, it probably is the most famous of the fighting at Chickamauga. So we're going to bring Jim Ogden back on here. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got a diversionary or an intense attack on the Union left. Then we've got something going on in the center, and we're going to talk about that. Just to orient you here, we might overlay a map over this anyway. A lot of the 19th fighting is up in here, and then way down here. The 18th fighting was sort of off the map over here. And then on the 20th, we're going to be talking about a whole lot of more fighting there, and then boom, right in the middle. Jim?
Well, Gary, your observation about your own personal condition, being tired, is not inappropriate. In fact, I should call you General Adelman or General Rosecrans, because that plays a role in the story here. But as you note, kind of the highlight, most well-known piece of the story, the deciding action of the battle, in so many ways, is going to be what happens along the Union line here, just a little bit to the right of center for the Union Army, in late morning of September the 20th. We're here on the Brotherton farm. You can see the cabin behind me that marks the Brotherton farmstead location. The Union line here was at the edge of the woods, and a number of Union units had shifted in and out of this position throughout the morning. William Stark Rosecrans had ridden by this area, in fact, not 90 minutes ago, and he has located his headquarters or command post at the time about 800 yards to the west of where we are right now. And that is where Rosecrans is when he's dealing with the threat to the Union left, an attack by former Vice President of the United States, John Cable Breckinridge, which had kicked off hours late the Confederate attack on September the 20th. And that threat, seemingly turning the Union left, has caused Rosecrans to send reinforcements in that direction. And having been without much sleep in the last week, Rosecrans receives a message about the condition of his line just to the north of us, on the Poe farm, where Brannan's division was located, that causes Rosecrans to believe that Brannan's division is out of line. And Rosecrans orders the next division to the south, not going down the chain of command, but just sending an order directly to the commander of the division that was right here, commanded by Thomas John Wood. He orders Wood's division, then of 3 brigades, one loaned to him from Van Cleve's division, and 2 of his own 3 brigades, Charles Harker's brigade and George Buell's brigade. He orders Wood's division to pull out and move north to close up on and support Joe Reynolds. Wood questions the validity of that order. His skirmishers are engaged with Confederates across the Lafayette Road in the woods, but Wood's immediate superior at that time, Alexander McCook, orders Wood to follow the order, and Wood pulls Barnes, Harker, and Buell's brigades out and starts them to the north, while McCook goes to get other troops to fill in Wood's position.
I was just going to add, okay, this happens in war a lot. What's the worst thing that could happen, Jim?
Well, unknown to Rosecrans, McCook, and Wood, although somewhat perhaps suspected by Wood because his skirmishers are heavily engaged, what turns out to be the power punch of the Confederate Army on September the 20th is located directly opposite of Wood's position. As you saw on the map that Gary used a few moments ago, this is now the Confederate left wing, James Longstreet's sector. He had been unable to get 5 of his 6 divisions online side by side to one another, and had wound up with a formation of where he has 3 divisions across the front, each in 2 lines, and 2 other divisions in 3 more lines stacked behind that center division. And fearful that an order from Bragg, which has already sent his right front division into action, that Bragg's order might disorganize the remainder of his formation. About 11, he will order John Bell Hood, the commander of that 3-division column, 8 brigades, 5 lines, 11,000 men, and the division to the left of it under Thomas Hindman. He will order those 4 divisions, 18,000 soldiers, to advance, and they will move forward. The lead division, Bushrod Johnson's men, advancing through the woods, driving wood skirmishers who remained in place back, crossing the Lafayette Road, and the Confederates will be surprised as anybody on the battlefield when, from here at the edge of the woods on the Brotherton farm, they receive no fire or hardly any fire whatsoever. And Bushrod Johnson's troops will pour through this gap that had just been opened in the line. McCook, trying to get troops to fill in in this position, had not had enough time, and the Confederates will penetrate the line, and the entire southern half of the Union line on the battlefield, that south of the Kelly Field, in just 60 minutes' time will be put into a very fluid state, being driven off to the west. But as many of these Union troops are driven from their positions, they turn towards Chattanooga to the north. They know what the goal and objective is, and they begin withdrawing in that direction. And this begins that process of the Union Army being pushed or being able to withdraw back into Chattanooga and not be cut off from Chattanooga as Bragg desired. This is what will bring Bragg a victory on the Chickamauga battlefield, but not the way he had intended. Not with the Union Army being driven southward and crushed against the wall of Lookout Mountain. The battle turns here with the order issued by the sleep-deprived Union Army commander William Stark Rosecrans, and the fortuitous attack by that 3-division column of James Longstreet.
Good. Who's coming?
Earlier in the day, or earlier, had not Wood received a profanity-laced tirade from Rosecrans for a failure to obey some of his orders?
Well,
so what was his mindset after this profanity-laced tirade earlier?
Well, Wood himself will later say that that whatever that interaction, whether it was a profanity-laced tirade by Rosecrans or just a chewing out, that interaction did not really affect his mindset. And in fact, he actually will consult the man who is responsible for this sector of the line when he received Rosecrans' order, Alexander McCook. And McCook said, "Follow the order. I'll take care of getting some of Davis's and Sheridan's troops to take your place." Wood will maintain that interaction with Rosecrans did not color his spirit, but that story will live on, promoted by Rosecrans partisans in the post-battle and post-war period, trying to explain away Rosecrans' bad day on a battlefield that really, in many ways, begins the exit of William Stark Rosecrans from the pages of the Civil War history books.
And I'll point out, Thomas Crittenden is painted with a bad brush as a result of this too. He'll be exonerated, and I gotta work him in here because when my pal Thomas Greeley Stevenson is killed at the Battle of Spotsylvania Courthouse on May 10th, 1864, Crittenden will be put in charge there of that division for the 9th Corps. And he'll go on to just a little bit of success and then finally resign from a bad case of nerves. Now, Jim, I want to ask you, Longstreet, who's a name that draws ire from folks who are fans of Gettysburg, but Chris White behind the camera, he and I affectionately call him Jimmy. He stumbles into an opportunity here, but he makes the most of it. And we see Longstreet, often thought of as a defensive commander, really has some of his best days on the offense. We see that here.
Well, and we see that at Second Manassas and also the Wilderness. Longstreet leads some of the biggest Confederate attacks of the war. And in fact, his attack here, if it had been in Longstreet's mind or Longstreet's control totally, would have been even larger than it was. He, recognizing that the Confederate attacks for the day had gotten started very late, he figured as a wing commander he had authority to make a modification within his wing, and he had intended to send all three of his frontline divisions and one other division forward at a single time, and then fortuitously for Longstreet, part of McLaws' division arrives as well, two brigades, and he is able to use them. But he actually was intended a larger attack if Bragg had not intervened with his order to Stewart's division.
And that's going to foreshadow some problems for this army. They're going to last for months as Bragg and Longstreet. Longstreet brings much needed reinforcements, and he brings an armchair general's mentality. Let me bring Garry back on here as we start to wrap things up here.
Yeah, no, not start to. I am tired. We're wrapping this thing up right now.
All right, General Rosecrans.
Thank you, sir.
At least you recognize the need for sleep.
Yes, I
which
do
is one of
indeed.
the important lessons to take from this situation.
And one thing I have learned is when I'm tired, it brings me to about where the people around me usually are in terms of their energy level. So there you have it, the most fortuitous attack of the Civil War, if you ask me, the turning point of the Battle of Chickamauga, and we're leading toward that climax on the 20th. I would estimate that it's probably already the most costly battle ever fought in the Western Theater, and there's still the bloody climax to go. So we're going to cover that on another video. I really appreciate everybody's help today. Jim, Anthony, Chris White behind the camera doing yeoman service on other duty that you'll learn about before long, and Chris Mikowski and all y'all for supporting us coming out here and for supporting battlefield preservation and education.